We're live, Professor
Look at that.
Wood.
Yet again, we're alive to solve the world's problems. One PowerPoint slide deck at a time.
That's right. And I know I showed you in the green room, but I'd be
Yeah.
remiss if I didn't show
Oh,
it.
yeah, that shirt's awesome. Hey, sometimes it's the choice that has to be made where it's forced upon us, right?
Amen. As we've said many times over the last 4 or 5 years, Will, when violence is the answer, it's the only answer.
That's it.
It's rarely the answer.
Very
99%
rarely.
of the time, but
Yep. Yep. It's almost never the answer, really.
mhm,
But when it is the answer, it is the only answer.
that's exactly right.
So, yep.
And what's the other meme say? If you're not prepared to do violence, get ready to hide behind somebody that does, or something
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. Yeah, for sure. Because it's was it you may not approve of violence, but you're
Yeah, you may
protected
not
by
believe
men
in
who do.
violence.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Yep. So, yeah, and it's very true, and it's whether you want to talk about the military, police. I mean, it's police forces are violence. It's government sanctioned violence. That's the it's the end state of it. Yeah, I can start with sir, please put your hands behind your back, but it's going to end with violence if you don't do what officer friendly becoming unfriendly says.
Oh yeah. I used to be, when I was a cop or a corrections officer, people like, man, you ain't nothing but a badge and a gun, or you're hiding behind that badge and gun. I'm like, buddy, this thing's saving your life.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me.
Yep.
I'd love to meet you, and I wasn't wearing it.
Yeah. Yep. And that usually shuts them up real quick.
Well, it's funny, in the movie The Departed, Leonardo DiCaprio was talking to the shrink, and he's like, do you have any cops that comes in here? He's like, oh yeah, if they have to use their weapons. He's like, nobody's more full of shit than a cop. They take the job because they want to use their weapons. And I'm like,
I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. You're saying the quiet part out loud.
that's right, don't do that.
Yeah. Keep that between us.
What are you drinking tonight, Mr. Will?
I am drinking my kind of one of my standards here, Voodoo Ranger. If I can get it focused up here, rotate. Voodoo Ranger IPA.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not too bad. This is kind of a standard, nothing great, easy to pick up anywhere. How about yourself?
Man, I tell you what, let's see here. This is barrel proof.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name. It's like McAfee.
Okay.
My local liquor store, I saw they had tags like this is a staff pick kind of thing, like
Okay.
they do
Yep.
in the store. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's this? Oh, okay. Well, let me try that. There we go.
Yeah. Nice.
And I like it. Ted Leonard is on. It says
Good to
nice
see you, sir.
surprise. Who else is on?
We got Will Rhodes on, so we almost have a Will quorum at this point.
We're working on it.
Yep. Pretty soon, we're us Wills are going to go for a democracy where majority rules, and we're going to take over everything.
Mm-hmm.
All ammo gets sent to a Will.
You're gonna push the riches of the world into the sea.
Mm-hmm. That's it, man. So,
all right, well, you got a good show, man.
Well, tonight's thing, Richie and I talked about just kind of talking about a few things. And I threw some slides together because I can't help myself, and just kind of guide things along. We can take it wherever, though. I'm not hard over on. We have to stay on this. So, whatever you want to bring up, sir, please do so, and we'll field any questions. It's what's that thing they say where it's the old guys at the fair, old codgers giving free advice. It's not good advice, but it's free.
Exactly. You get what you pay for in this.
Exactly. It's worth exactly half of what you're paying for this. Okay. All right. CNN's Fear Greed Index. We're at 61. You can see there, I did it this way this time around because you can see a week ago it was at 51, which is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And there some sort of event recently that would make people be more optimistic in the stock market?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. That's why I was asking. I have no idea. And right now I think this is just kind of a animal spirits blow off sort of thing with Trump being elected. Obviously,
Yeah.
It's going to come back to the trend line. It went down a little bit before the election because nobody really knew which way it was going to go. Pop back up. It's going to move around a bunch here.
But we've already seen 4 years of Trump. We know he's pro business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is good stuff, and especially with the stuff he's talking about with tariffs and all this other stuff. I mean, I think there's good signals coming at the market right now.
There are, but we also have to look at it's different now than 2016. And
Tell me
that,
more about that.
well, I mean, mortgage rates now are what, 7-ish, right?
Mhm.
You've got whole different housing market. I mean, it's a whole different thing than 2016. 2016, the housing market was on the rise. Right now, it's always regional, but it's very regional right now. Austin is not doing well. Florida in general is not doing well. Matter of fact, I saw a stat that there's more home listings in the Tampa metro area with the term motivated seller than there are listings in California.
No way.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
is
sorry,
this the time?
more than motivated sellers in California. Sorry, I misspoke.
Oh, okay. So, say, holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. I mean, I follow the Florida market closely. I'm waiting for my spot in God's waiting room down there, and it just day after day going down, going down, going down. There was one recently I saw. It was out of my price range, but I still like to follow that stuff. Dream a little. I think they started at 550 and they sold it for 385.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. Single family home on a canal, maybe a 5-minute boat ride into the river that leads right into the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're seeing that all over the place right now. And I'm looking at the Fort Myers area, the land of 401k people.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing a lot of that. And yeah, it's still going down and down and down until the home insurance thing turns around down there.
That's what
and
Jeff's saying right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also hurricane related. Yep. And the hurricanes play into the homeowners insurance. There's, I've run across maybe half a dozen listings where they come around and say, homeowners policy is due in March or April and needs to be sold before then.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Because they're, in some cases, they're doubling and tripling homeowners policies. Yeah. It's brutal. So,
It says Trump and Powell will go Western. Looking
yes.
like Alan Kelly says, wow, finally catching a show, gents. November has been a
Yeah.
busy.
And that's it. Where you want to take us out, Rich?
Thanks for coming on, Alan.
So,
You can join us for 5 seconds.
yeah, great time in there, Alan. Good to see you, brother. But sorry about the
Let me ask you this: if interest rates were where you wanted them to be, you think you'd pounce on a property down there?
Hard to say. And the reason I say that is because, well, actually, I'm gonna put a caveat on that. Yes, because I think the only way interest rates are going to go where they're eventually going to go is a recession or a financial crisis, which is going to cause housing prices down there to tumble even more, which will put me in my happy place.
Good.
So I think that's the way it'll shake out down there. It's we've been talking about a couple years now. It's a long, slow burn until it goes really fast.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So there we go. Who is this guy? I haven't seen him.
Vivek Ramaswamy. Now that my bride corrected me and I'm saying it correctly now. You and I talked about this this week, Rich. This is their fireside chats via podcast are
I
starting.
can't freaking wait.
Yes. This is, if you think back to Trump's first term, Twitter was a big part of what got him elected, and it's a big part of what kept him from being reelected back then. Lack of discipline, and nobody would smack his fingers in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But this is I think Twitter, in this case, X, is gonna, or a podcast. I guess this is officially a podcast, but it's gonna be the fireside chat of modern days. And people forget that FDR's fireside chats were brought on because he was trying to go around the media. Back then, the media was Republican controlled. The mainstream media, the newspapers, all that were more right leaning, and he was tired of being edited and taken out of context. So he went straight to the people through the new medium of the time, the radio.
Yeah, that's I don't know why they don't do that. I mean, even when you and I were growing up in the late 70s and 80s, you would have Carter come on from time to time, Reagan come on from time to time, and they'd talk. I remember vividly when George Bush, the first one, got in there and talked about held up bags of crack cocaine. That's the first time I'd ever heard of it, being a kid out in the county.
Right. So I think this is going to be an awesome thing. This is going to be, I think a lot of the naysayers are going to have a hard time arguing with this because they're not going to be able to argue, well, what I heard he said was, or I saw somewhere he said,
Go transparency.
Go bring it right up. So I think this is going to be a wonderful thing for not only the communication, but for the country as well.
I
And
100%.
and I truly hope the Democrats, whenever they get back in power, which will eventually happen, I hope they do the exact same thing.
And yeah, don't hold your breath, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I didn't put a timeline on it. Okay.
You could pass out.
Yeah.
May not come
So
back.
it's like my grandmother used to say when I was little, you'd play in the dust on the,
Mhm.
the knickknacks and stuff. And she'd always say, yeah, I don't care if you play in the dust, just don't write the date on there so nobody knows how long it's been since I dusted. So
Can I talk? I've found a thing today about this Daniel Perry. So Daniel
yeah.
Perry, former Marine who was riding on a subway train, 24 years old, put a homeless felon in a fatal chokehold to stop him from attacking passengers. They set his bail at $200,000. Let me say that again. This is an honorably discharged United States Marine, no convictions, trying to save people, $200,000 bail. Whereas Muhammad Azidi, 22-year-old, raped a woman at knife point after breaking into her home. He was released without bail. What am I missing here?
Nothing.
Hmm.
And there was a tweet that I think it was a tweet I put up not long ago in a show where a New Yorker was complaining about the behavior of some homeless people on a subway. And so I'm like, where are the real men to take care of this?
You're in jail, buddy.
Yeah, it's like elections have consequences, right? So,
But this is why I said it last week. I want disruption.
Mhm.
This is exactly, we need some accountability. And this is sadly, this is one of the things when you give blanket immunity to district attorneys and then they become politicized. This is where we end up.
Yeah. And there's, you think back to the Summer of Love. Yeah. Oh yeah, here you go. You get arrested, you're out in 2.5 hours. Well, then they just got more of that behavior. Well, it's been the same thing in pick your city, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, so on and so forth. So until they actually hold the criminals responsible and applaud men like these, you're just going to get more of this. And then what California just passed Proposition, whatever the number was, making it a felony again for shoplifting. And Bill Maher talked about that on his show. And the world must be spinning off its axis because Bill Maher's been making some sense lately. And his whole audience applauded this. And it's like, what are you doing applauding? You guys voted for this garbage.
But if you think about it, I know I think we agree on this. There's a difference between leftists and liberals.
Mm-hmm.
An old school liberal I can get down with. You know why? Because they want freedom of speech. They want freedom of religion, not from religion, but freedom of religion. They want a lot of the same things that you and I want. That's what's being more. I'm more of a libertarian, but I can get down with them. They're not wanting to chop children's penises off and all this other kind of stuff the lunacy that we see from the left.
Right. Correct.
And they realize that locking somebody up like Daniel Perry or reducing the threshold on when we're going to arrest people is just going to incite more of this shit. You know?
For sure. And I agree. But the problem is the Democrat Party has run so far away from the classical liberal to kowtow, bow down to the woke. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we had a bunch of Democrat senators and congressmen and congresswomen kneeling for George Floyd. Right? That wasn't that long ago. We're old enough to remember that, right? So,
and that's the thing, man. There's so much stuff going on right now, and I know we'll get into it as we roll through this show tonight. But there's so much going on in the media right now. Hell, you had just another congressional hearing where they continue to say aliens are real. And the government knows about it, and they're working with them, and all this kind of stuff. It's easy to get lost. Some of the details get lost, but we have to remember what they did during COVID. And I'm never going back to that again.
Yep. Never happened. And I think that's the way most everybody feels. And I think the real tragedy of the post-COVID loss of faith is when the real one comes along, there's gonna be a lot of people like me are gonna be like, I don't know. And then, oh crap, it was the real one.
Yeah, and Mike and I, when we did the first podcast on COVID, probably February of 2020, before anybody was really talking about it, I remember distinctly saying, we're not going to know whether the data we're looking at right now is real until it's over.
Mhm.
And then we'll have very clarity of hindsight.
Yep.
So I still support 15 days to stop the curve. I mean, a lot of people are like, that was the dumbest idea. When you're looking at the data in that moment and you're going, oh shit,
Mhm.
this could work. This makes sense.
Yep.
The problem when it became 30 days to stop the curve and 60
Yeah.
days to stop the curve, and
Yeah.
you disrupted the whole economy and
Yeah.
put people out of a job.
Yeah, the 90th of the 15th day,
Yeah,
is
right.
what took care of it. And then we're still dealing with the aftermath of that because then to prevent another Great Depression, they printed a bunch of money. And we're still dealing with the fallout of that.
Who
And
knew
we're going
that
to be
was
dealing
gonna
with it the rest of this decade
That's right. Our
because it's going to
kids
go
will be-
back and forth.
Yeah.
So, speaking of dealing with that, Target might know a little something about that.
Hmm.
So Target Boutique, we all know there's a little more upscale. I mean, that's why I shop at Walmart, because I can leave Walmart feeling better about myself. If I go to Target, I feel a little worse about myself because of the people I see there, right?
Yep.
So this was this past week. Target CEO guiding for some conservatism. He's not talking politics. As the retailer misses earnings estimates ahead of the holidays. So I pulled this out of this Yahoo Finance article. So the net sales were up 1.1% year over year. That is not adjusted for inflation, Rich.
Oh,
So when inflation's running, let's just call it 3, that means your real sales went down about 1.92%.
damn.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. Gross profit margin was 27.2 versus 27.4 a year ago, so a little less gross profit margin. Okay. And their estimate was for 27 or 28.7. So that's a pretty sizable miss in Wall Street world. Okay.
I feel sorry for any brick and mortar that has to compete with Amazon. Let's just be honest.
Well, and let's segue on that a little bit. I have been buying more and more off other places, and also especially Walmart.com. First, because I already feel better about myself just because it's Walmart. Second, the prices are better.
Really?
I just had to get some inserts for my shoes. That was orthopedic, those Dr. Scholl's ones where you used to go stand on the machine. Those.
Make you stand all the way up to 5'8".
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
The lips.
Exactly. That's why I've got this tall chair.
DeSantis get in trouble for that crap. Anyway, I'm getting way off.
So, but I went on Amazon and they were like $55. And just by chance, they're sitting right here from Walmart. They were $4 cheaper on Walmart. Same free shipping, same 2 days, two-day delivery. And, so also I ordered some gear lube for the differential in one of the cars. And got it from Summit Racing. It was $4 a bottle cheaper than Amazon. And I had to order $100 to get their free shipping, but me blowing $100 at Summit Racing is not difficult to do.
It's an easy day.
Yeah. So I'm really actively looking for those other opportunities away from Amazon now because let's face it, Amazon doesn't like guys like you and me, and I'm tired of giving them money.
Can we take a segue? I've got a presentation I want to give you here. I don't know if you saw this. Let's do this real quick. Speaking of, they don't like me and you. Let's do this. I should have warned you, buddy. Isn't that freaking terrible?
Jag used to
Jaguar.
They build one heck of a car back in the day.
Back in the day, what are they doing?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, did they just take a big? Let's go back. Let's look at the Bud Light. What are they doing? Oh yeah, let's lose some money.
Yeah, how's that shaking out?
Their stock is tanking. It's Tattoo Motors, TATTA Motors, and it's tanking. Well, no wonder why.
Yeah, and this is where these corporate types, I don't know if they're being pressured by some money people like a BlackRock. Okay, because that was going on for quite a while with ESG scores, right? So I don't know if they're feeling pressure from there or if they're just that out of touch. that this is not what the mainstream customers want. And if even if it's stuff that I agree with, let's say Miller Lite came
Mhm.
out and was like, I don't know, take your pick, rah rah Trump or what have you. Like, no. Make the beer, sell the beer.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, keep
Yeah.
keep your nose out of everything else. It's like for me, it's like the NFL. When they
Mhm.
started kneeling, I stopped watching. Not because I
100%.
agreed or disagreed with it, but I watched sports to get away from day to day life, not have it shoved back in my face.
Yeah, man, and I think that's what they're missing. It's like, no, we need to get involved in this social stuff. No, you don't.
No.
Do your thing, and you're going to be a beacon for people that like. I need to escape this crap.
Yep.
I want to go and get engrossed in a game, not here
Yeah.
we go again.
Yep. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly right. So, and speaking of that, Target sure got engrossed in that at one point. They've backed off that considerably. Maybe
Yeah.
this is some of the overhang of that as well. I don't know.
They had what was that shirt? Satan loves pronouns or something shit
Something
like
like
that.
that. Yeah.
Terrible.
It's like who thought this was a good idea? Seriously?
It was like children's clothing too, and they had
Yeah.
tuckable stuff for kids.
Yep.
So little Kentucky.
Well, and I always go back to what Michael Jordan said. They asked him why nobody knew where his politics were. And he's like, both sides buy shoes.
Yeah,
That was his
amen.
entire response. Perfect.
Yeah, I remember now. This is a true story. When we first did away with Don't Ask, Don't Tell in Marine Corps recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the guys were like, "Oh shit!" I remember this one guy in the back's like, "Hell," yeah." And like, "What are you so damn happy for?" He's like, "You just opened up an entire new market for me." He's like,
Yeah.
"This, I can now attack this market and put more guys in the Marine Corps." And that's the way businesses should look at it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
Yeah.
market for conservatives that wear shoes. There's a market for liberals that wear the shoes.
Yep.
I want everybody to
Just
wear this.
just make good shoes and keep your mouth shut.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Target. So Target.
go back to that previous one there, brother. Got a couple more things on that.
How's that going?
All right. So comparable sales up 0.3% year over year versus an estimate of plus 1.48. That's a big miss.
Uh-huh.
That's a big miss. But however, Walmart went up 5.3%. Now, this is part of the shopping down phenomenon we see when the economy starts sputtering for regular people. So people are shopping down. Some people that maybe when times were good, they could afford to go to Target. Now they're back at Walmart. And we're seeing that with across the board at Walmart. There's more six-figure earnings. People who earn six figures shopping at Walmart now. There's more of them now than ever before. And in fairness, it doesn't help Target that Walmart is the number one grocery seller in the country. So their digital sales were up 10.8%, which is good for them. But store comparable sales, so this is the same store compared to a year ago, we're down 1.9.
Do you own any Target?
Nope, I do not. And I'm really glad I didn't. Now, here's this bottom point here. Inventory grew at a faster pace than sales, up 3% from a year ago. So inventories are building. So when they buy months ahead, they're not able to move that. So now they're going to have to discount that, which is going to hurt future cash flows.
Can't sit on it. Got to get rid of it.
That's it. Now, go to the next one. See if you can figure out when this earnings report came out.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Oof.
I believe it was down. It was either 19 or 21% of the day. I forget which it was now.
Damn.
Yeah, that'll leave a mark. The red horizontal line you see goes back to January 2nd, the first day of trading in 2024.
Okay.
So they are now down for the year.
So that's the trend.
Yeah.
At 141.
141 is where it opened or where it closed at on December 31st or December 30th, whichever the day it is of 2023.
Can I ask you a question? This volume, I'm imagining that green down at the bottom, 13.72 million. That's the volume.
That is the volume, and
this is high.
Well, you can see on the day the big red vertical bar there, where the D and the E are.
Mm-hmm.
So the D is they paid a dividend that day. The E is earnings. The red with a down type arrow for E means they missed earnings. They were low. So you can see on that day they traded 117 million shares when it went down that much. So trading 13.72 million shares is it's relatively heavy. If you can kind of imagine behind that D where that 13 is there, if you look back over it, that's pretty high volume. You got to basically go back to days of earnings to find volume that high, either selling in red or buying in green. So it oversold, so it's going to bounce back after a stock sells off that much in a day. Usually there's a little buyback, but their trend has not been good. If you look back to April, it's been clearly in a downtrend since then, bouncing around. So Walmart, on the other hand, is up I think 60% year to date.
Do you own Walmart?
I do. Okay. Full disclosure. Yep. Again, as much a therapy thing as anything.
Right.
So, all right. So now this one, I'm not going to read this one off to you guys because it's really boring, to be honest. This is one of those ones, though, where 50 is the zero line. So if the number is above 50, whatever you're measuring is expanding. Below 50, it's contracting. Okay. So this is the ISM, the Manufacturing PMI, Purchasing Managers Index. Basically, they've been missing a lot of forecasts. So, like the backlog of
U.S.
orders,
manufacturing.
U.S. manufacturing.
Okay.
Okay. So we can see this is going back a year. Okay. So you can see that only 1 month, it was March of this year, was it above 50? Was it actually expanding? So this is not good. Manufacturing typically leads everything. In the 08-09 crisis, manufacturing started dipping below 50 in 06. Because so there's manufacturing, there's services. Manufacturing is obviously making things that are expected to last. Services are whether it be your computer services or very short-term
like the construction business I'm in.
Yes. So here's something to think about. Let's think bullish and bearish. Bullish, we think the market's going up, the economy is doing great. Bearish, going down. If you're not sure which way the economy is going or you're bearish, are you going to plunk down tens or hundreds of millions of dollars for things that are going to last a long time and you have to pay for a long time?
No.
Therefore, you order less of these things, right? So typically manufacturing leads into a recession, and it leads coming out of a recession too, because the manufacturers see the bottom and then things are coming back up, right? So manufacturing typically leads. Now, services have been doing very well because things like tech, computers, things like that fall under services. But at some point, somebody's got to make something.
To be fair, though, because I know that like in construction, things run in cycles. And I know that like in recruiting, things run in cycles. Like we call it FMAN, February, March, April, May. We had JJAS, which is June, July, August, September. And if this is an inverse to what we see on recruiting, because FMAN, we struggle because there's nothing but a grad market. Whereas JJAS, I'm shipping all these guys who just graduated high school.
Okay.
So I say that because I would have to see what this cycle looks like. I imagine it's a cycle. I could be wrong. And I also wonder if this takes into account like the polling data that says Kamala's going to win. Kamala's going to win. Well, she's not going to be good for manufacturing.
I'll hit the second point first. So the election, I'm going to say it probably doesn't matter as much as we might think so, because these companies they're buying this equipment that's going to last 5, 10, 15 plus years. Right. So it's going to an extent, pardon the pun, trump an election cycle. If they see good things happening, I don't think that's going to sway it too much.
Okay.
Maybe for a month, but this hasn't been in positive territory except for March. And if you go back in the entire year, there's only 1 month where it was positive.
Okay. So you're saying that Jeff's comment down here is similar to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you're saying this is manufacturing, not really. It's more.
I don't think so. I mean, the thing about so you're running a business. I ran a business for a long time. If my sales are growing and everything's going great and I'm not having trouble finding people and I've got good margins going, do I really care who's in the White House from the business standpoint?
Yeah, hell no.
Not really. Right. So
manufacturing, though, you're breaking ground, man. It's a huge investment, right? You see what Alan says? What about that?
Let's see here. What about job numbers? We're having a lot of small manufacturers around our area are laying off workers. Yep. Ford just laid off 4,000 in Europe. Jeep, I know, Alan, you're a Mopar guy. Jeep is struggling right now. A lot of Dodge and Jeep dealers very angry with Stellantis over how things are going. Don's here. Awesome. Good to see you, brother. So yeah, there, a lot of layoffs going on for sure. And this is so we've watched this for a while now. First, hours get cut. So instead of typically, 45 to 50 hours a week, next thing you know, you're getting 38 to 42, and then so on and so forth. And then because of, again, COVID, like we talked about with the money printing, there was such a period of time post-COVID where you couldn't find workers. Employers are hanging on to workers because they remember that. It was scary when you couldn't find enough workers. So they're doing everything they can to hang on to them. The last thing that happens is layoffs. Because once you lay them off, you're probably not going to get them back. Right? Because
nobody wants to do that. I can tell you.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
We'll create work not to lay people off, because trying to find a construction worker right now is hen's teeth, man.
Yeah. And I mean, I know a guy who was in the HVAC business for decades, and he said, I had him bid some work for me one time, and I had to call him up and be like, hey, I'd love to give you this business, but this other guy came in 30% under you. And he goes, he's probably slow right now. He's just trying to keep his guys on payroll.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take it. You'd be silly if you didn't. And we're still friends. And he's like, I've been there. I've done that. He's like, right now I'm busy, so I need to charge, for the overtime. So there's that. But there does come a time where, the accountant says, hey, you got to do something.
That's a good point, though, bro. I just thought about it. I mean, it is incredibly rare to pay overtime. And pre-COVID, dude, it's like every week we were having overtime.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah.
And see, that's funny. Even in my own backyard, I hadn't really put that together.
Well, you get so busy with day to day, it's lose, forest for the trees, right?
All right.
So you were talking about wanting to see a longer term picture of this. If you go to the next slide,
oh, there we go.
This is the PMI going back, math and public 10 years. Okay. Now you take COVID out, right? 2020. Right. If you take that out, we've bounced around here in 2023 around this level, correct? But if you go back, take COVID out, last 10 years, that's it. Yeah,
but I would submit, look at the Trump effect, 2016.
Yes.
2017.
Well, and again, and in fairness to Obama, that was a long time to come out of the housing crisis. And remember, manufacturing takes a long time to spin back up, right?
Yeah. And what happened in 2019, the year prior to COVID? It's not like they knew it was coming.
Well, they didn't know it was coming, but we were headed towards a recession in 2019. COVID really saved us from a recession. Even though technically there was a recession, but none of the Democrats talk about it because we all know it was COVID when it finally happened. But we were headed towards a recession in 2019. For sure.
But to your point though, Will, I mean, look where we are now. We haven't been there since COVID for 10 years.
That's Go to the next slide. Let's get some real perspective here, because when in doubt, zoom out, right?
Oh, there we go.
Going back to 1945.
Looks like a cardiac monitor.
It does. And here's something I noticed just right before we started the show. I was just going through the slides to refresh my memory. Look how much less volatile it's gotten since 1980?
Yeah.
I think that's more. I think the Fed learned to manipulate things more in the 70s, and they've been perfecting their game. That's my own guess. Came up with it about 20 minutes ago.
Look at that mid-70s, brother. It just falls off a cliff.
Yep. And look, even if you go back to the 50s, look how volatile it was in the 50s, up and down, back and forth, right? And then things.
I would not have thought that. It's funny, man.
Yeah.
I would have thought 50s was just growth.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yep. Well, but remember too, in the 50s, computers weren't really, they were a thing, but they weren't really a thing. But every era has its own technological breakthroughs, right? So that's going to run manufacturing back and forth as well. But
yeah, that's wild.
To your previous question, if you look at where we are right now on PMI and you take COVID out, you got to go back to the GFC.
Yeah.
Global financial crisis to find a spot there. And the one before that was post 9/11 .com bubble in 01, right? And prior to that, you got to go back to 91, 92 recession. And prior to that is the 80 and 82 recessions. So this is not good territory. And this will not turn around quickly. This chart looks like it's really fast, but remember, each one of these lines is a decade, right?
Yeah, good point.
So looking back now, it's like, wow, that came back really fast. Probably didn't feel that way at the time
No.
because
No.
that's it took a year or two, right?
Yeah. Alan
So
says we had a contractor the other day advise he is having to delay jobs due to a lack of trade workers. Yeah,
believe
I
that.
hired a guy, a contractor. He's about 2/3 way into the job and he can't keep employees. So a lot of the days he's over there working by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, 60-year-old guy. What's
Yeah.
Will say?
He said he interviewed 30 people a week and only get about 15 get an offer, and 8 don't make pass background check and the drug screening, and 4 make it past orientation. Yeah,
Crazy.
numbers game, man. It really is. And it's sad. It really is.
What about that?
We can go down a rabbit hole here. So, and Nixon closed the gold window in the 70s.
Look at that.
So, yep.
You think
And
that's
that's
what
when-
we see falling off a cliff there in the mid 70s?
Well, that would be when you got the inflation taken off after Burns capitulated in 72 for Nixon,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
then inflation took off, and then when they started dealing with the hangover of that, manufacturing went down, right? These people pulled back with inflation, right?
Mhm.
So it all dovetails together. And then really post August 15, 71, when Nixon closed the gold window, like Don brought up, the Fed became much more activist after that. And they were able to play a lot more games with the money supply to manipulate this. And, in favor of the Fed, you can say, well, look how volatile it was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s before the Fed started doing more. I think that's a
Mhm.
valid point. However, what I don't like is you have one person in charge of the U.S. economy, essentially.
Yeah.
Unelected person who
Almost
doesn't really,
unfireable. Let's put
yeah,
it that way.
and really doesn't answer to anybody,
No.
right?
He's almost
So-
challenging Trump at this point. Have you seen that?
Mhm. Yeah, he is, and it's another one of those establishment versus Trump things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's
Kyle is on.
yeah, it was good to see you, brother.
And Will.
Yep, says, oh, I think you muted there, brother. Says one might make it past the 90-day mark, so 1 out of 30.
Yeah,
That is
gee.
that's tough, man. And then you put all that time, effort, and money into getting somebody trained up, and yeah. And then as soon as somebody offers them an extra 25 cents an hour, they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone. That's exactly right. And it's competitive. Jeff says, look at this graph. Makes me feel like the goods and bads are cyclical and no president is better for anyone. That's an interesting point. What do you think?
In some ways, I'll definitely agree with that. And things are cyclical because humans are involved, fear and greed, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to go back and forth. That's the sine wave of the economic cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, right or wrong, presidents get the blame or the credit, right? And like Clinton gets the credit for, coming out of 92 and all that sort of stuff. But a big part of that was the first time in however many decades it had been that there's a Republican controlled Congress that kept Clinton in check. Because if you look back at what Clinton ran on, it was socialized health care. It was single payer. You get the bonus president with Hillary at the same time, all this stuff. And he started off going pretty far left his first couple of years until the Republicans took over Congress, reined him in. And then other things happened that also made it easier for him to be, quote unquote, fiscally responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Like the .com, the whole internet came on, right? That's the AI of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also oil was $15 a barrel.
Well, that's
I could run an economy at $15 a barrel. I could make it look good, right?
Well, we didn't have that back in the 70s is what Ted is talking to, right?
Yes.
When oil was through the roof because nobody really knew what the full faith and credit of the United States means when the dollar isn't backed by anything but
precisely
our full faith and credit. So Ted says, OPEC and the U.S. high cost of manufacturing hit the fan in the 70s.
Yep, sure did. And we could be looking at, could we be looking at that part too? I mean, people are losing faith in the U.S. dollar system. The U.S. dollar is
whoa. Why would they do that?
Oh, yeah, my bad. Move on. Never mind. So,
I mean, if you're like $37 trillion in debt,
yeah, just went past 37 today, didn't we? Yep.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. So it's funny thing. if you haven't watched, since the Fed lowered interest rates by 0.5 point on September 18th, which way have bond yields gone? They've actually gone up.
Mm.
The bond market's going, no, 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 no. No, we're not that optimistic. We think there's more risk because we're seeing what's going on with fiscal policy. And we think it's going to be harder for the US government to pay us back with worthwhile dollars. So therefore, we're going to want a better return to offset that. So the bond market's throwing the BS flag.
Well, somebody has to, for God's sake.
Yep.
Don says the early 70s was also the drawdown of the Vietnam War. The MIC was losing jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Will Parker is on. Hello,
Awesome.
Will. Good to see you, brother. Do we have a quorum of Wills?
I believe
now?
we have a quorum of wills. We will break off now in a separate meeting to discuss how to handle things going forward.
So you're going to have one of those secret meetings like the Republican senators just did
Yeah.
to put
We
in
got a secret handshake. We got some t-shirts that, we had made up, and so
Mhm.
but we can't let you in on it because it's Rich, not a Will. So
Well, on the outside of the shirt, will it say well, on the outside of the shirt, Will, does it say we support President Trump's agenda, and on the inside it says just kidding?
No, it leaves out the first word on your shirt. So so it's this is going to be interesting going forward because you've got Trump talking about the tariffs, and I forget who it was just on CNBC. Somebody who's going to be in his cabinet, I forget who it was now, saying, "Hey, this 100% tariff thing, this is a starting point. We're not going to end up there. It's a negotiating point. Everybody just chill out a little bit." And it's going to take a while for all this to shake out. The bond market's got to figure out, okay, what's really going to happen here? How are the tariffs going to be structured? How are other countries going to react? Right. And this guy made a great point. I can't remember if it was him or somebody else now that I think on it, but
no, it's that YouTube video you sent me today, right?
I think so. Was that the one talking about the Ford and Chevy and like in Europe with the tariffs over there?
Exactly right.
And same thing in Japan. Like they basically can't sell a car over there because it's essentially 100% tariff over there. So like, fine, we're going to do something right back at you. You lower yours, we'll lower ours. Right?
Exactly. And that starts the negotiation, and we're off to the races.
Exactly. And so the tariff could come in at 100%, or it could go down to 10, 5, 0, 20. I don't know. Right. But it's going to be a process where instead of just getting run over and then we have to innovate our way out of a bad spot, we go, now this evens out the playing field, which also helps our manufacturing jobs here, which based on what we're seeing at PMI, they can sure use it.
Brother, I've said it for years and years and years. When you have 98% of the shoes in the United States being made abroad, that's a problem. 98%. You want to tariff and shoes are so cheap. Just as an anecdote, I was in my wife got some really cool shoes. They needed a little bit of work done. I took them to the cobbler in Knoxville. And there was a little old man in there, and it used to be his business. And he was a Korean War vet. He's like, when I got back from Korea, there was 54 shoe repair places in Knoxville, Tennessee. You know how many there is now? I said, no, sir. He goes, one. This one.
Yep.
I mean, it's the only one for probably 100 miles. Yep. Why repair shoes when I can just throw the damn things away and buy another cheap Chinese pair for next to nothing? Or if you want to go crazy, you can spend whatever amount of money you have. But if we get back to American manufacturing, you might have cobblers come back.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, and within that, the shoe prices are going to go up. Just all there is to it, right?
Yeah.
But it'll be a cycle, just like inflation took a while. Like you and I were talking during COVID, these stimmy checks, it's going to be inflationary. Well, it took months and years for that to fully develop. Well, it's gonna be the same thing with these tariffs. The prices are going to come up slowly over time, and there's a process where the manufacturing comes back here and it benefits the workers.
But don't forget, they're going to lie to you like they did to us then. They were saying it's transitory, and you and I were like, "The hell are you talking about? This is math, man.
Yeah,
this not transitory. Are you kidding me? Transitory if you measure it in decades, maybe,
right?
Not in the short term, at least."
Yep. Well, and I saw another interview where it was Charlie Kirk, I believe, talking about how Trump, the Susie Wiles, who's now his chief of staff, and she ran the campaign for him. completely broke the Republican playbook. The Karl Rove Republican playbook is reach out to undecideds,
Undecided.
suburban moms, all that, and try to sway them over. And the Trump campaign said, no, we're going to expand the Republican base.
Yes.
We're going to go after, the men that usually the guys in the trades who normally don't vote because they're tired, they don't care, they know nobody represents them. They went after them. They changed the electorate.
It's brilliant because
and
the left said there's no place for men, especially white men. There's no place for you in our party. They embrace identity politics, and on the hierarchy of identity politics, the lowest rung is the white man. He's the devil, and so of course you just sent them flocking to the Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, and young men too have typically younger people in general tend to vote more left. Young men voted, compared to history, overwhelmingly for Trump because they've been told basically their entire lives. Take a 20-year-old young man; he's basically been told his entire life he's worthless. The world doesn't need him.
He's a piece of shit. He's evil. His ancestors were evil. Yeah.
Yep. So what Trump did was brilliant. I think it's going to be when it's all said and done, it'll be studied in politics for decades.
I agree with you 100%. So it was a masterclass. And if you think about no one could script how he was going to respond after getting shot. I hope I would have the presence of mind to stand up and do that. I can't promise you. I've been shot at multiple times before. I never got shot either. So what I've stood up and go, fight. Yeah. Maybe not.
And different context too, right? I mean,
yeah.
So
I'd be seeking cover probably, but
yeah. Well, it's human nature, right? So
yeah, but I mean, my point is, it's like the McDonald's incident. Whoever did that, brilliant. I mean, there was so many little pieces along the path where you had the positioning from whoever his strategist was, and then him being himself in those moments, which were just brilliant.
Yep. So, yeah. This is my last slide. The motivational one is always, if you want to read this one off to us, brother.
I would love to. Optimists study English, pessimists study Chinese, and the realists learn to use a Kalashnikov, Russian proverb. I love that.
Yep.
Let me tell you a true story. So I get to the Marines that had gone into Grenada had captured a bunch of Soviet weapons, and there was some from Vietnam and what have you. And I remember the company commander's like, we've got all these Soviet-made weapons, but we don't have anybody who knows how to, repair them, work on them, disassemble them, assemble them. We teach a class on them, and anybody know how? I'm like, I'm the only guy in a company of 130-something Marines. Brown, you know how to do it? I'm like, yeah, I'm from East Tennessee, man. Of course, everybody knows how to run an AK in East Tennessee. So literally, everybody gathered around, and they were like taking notes and studying. I'm like, this should not be some hip pocket class at the company level. We should be taught our adversaries' weapons.
Absolutely.
From boot camp, because guess what? They're going to be laid everywhere, all over the battlefield. And it shouldn't be the first time you're seeing it. You're going to need how to clear a jam, put the weapon back, get clean and modern. I don't know. I went to another shooting school, and that's exactly what they did. It was very high speed. And they had, as you're fighting from one piece of cover to the other to get to the objective, at every piece of cover, there would be a weapon, and it would be some sort of Soviet bloc, Warsaw Pact weapon in some sort of disrepair. You might have to load it. You might have to clear a jam. You might have to do something in order to keep fighting. And when that weapon run dry, you dump it and you keep, run off to the next piece of cover. But anyway, I don't know. Oh, I was going to say, how the hell did we get here from an economic show? The Kalashnikov. Sorry.
There might be a tie in there somewhere.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. So, I don't know. I think that's pretty much everything this week, brother. I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, there's, the Putin launched off the ICBM without a nuclear war tip. Thank you.
Hypersonic, by the way.
What? Did not realize that.
Yeah, Mach 10, buddy. It is unstoppable. Couldn't shoot it down if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's moving. That'll get you from A to B in a hurry.
Yeah.
So there's that going on. And was that a shot across the bow to Biden on the way out? Just chill out, right off into the sunset.
Well, do you see he's threatening our base in Poland now?
No, I did not see that.
We have a air defense base in Poland, to support the Ukrainians. Is like, oh, that's next.
Yeah.
Another thing that's on the table now is MIRVs. Do you remember what those are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So MIRVs being as the missile comes in, it breaks apart, and there's
Mhm.
multiple entry vehicles that can hit. And so he can, I think that's probably next before he goes for Poland.
Yeah,
But I
and
mean,
I
yeah,
also saw Putin said, was it weapons en route to Ukraine before they get to Ukraine are a viable target now in his eyes. So I take that to mean it'll be inside of a NATO country. So,
what got America involved in World War One? Will, do you remember?
I believe it was a shooting that then triggered a whole bunch of treaties.
The sinking of
Oh,
Lusitania
I'm sorry. Yeah,
for World War
World
One.
War
Yeah,
One. I apologize. Yes.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, and we saw this. The German U-boats. You want to
Hmm.
bring stuff over to help out England, we're going to sink all that we can.
Hmm.
So I think Russia's got a good playbook. He studies history.
Yep.
And I saw an interview with him. He's like, what do you think America would do if he goes, you guys went to war with Mexico? Let's suppose I put some stuff down there. Let's
Hmm.
suppose Mexico wanted to get, I don't know, California back,
Yeah.
Texas back, and
Yeah.
I'm going to give missile systems here. What would they do?
Right.
And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
got a point.
Yeah. Or what would we do if the Chinese started building military bases in Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's
We'd
I
lose our
think.
freaking mind.
Yeah. I mean, Cuba's still paying for that game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. Yeah,
Will
brother.
Parker says, "Why do we not got no hypersonic?" My cousin is working on it. He's got a master's in aerospace engineering, and he's working on that program. I asked him at my mother's funeral. I don't know what was that, almost a year ago, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't talk about it." I'm like, "Okay,"
Yeah, fair enough.
but they're working on it.
Yeah. Well, and Ted's comment here, crazy lame duck pushing full speed ahead to make it harder for Team Trump. That's your view, Ted, and it's my view as well, because they're
My
even
view
doing it
is,
with federal judges. There's 63 vacancies right now. They're trying to shove them through so that Trump doesn't get an opportunity on those. So
yeah,
that's kind of just politics 101, right? But they're going to set up everything else. Like the first time I remember this was just before Bill Clinton left office, before George W. Bush came in. He signed an executive order saying that drinking water had to have I think it was a mercury level below whatever number, a 2, I'll say.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, everybody agreed anything below a 5 was safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Bush came in on day one and undid that and put it back to 5 where it had been.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately the media is like, George W. Bush wants everybody to die from mercury poisoning. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, give me a break. And you couldn't tell facts to anybody. So they're going to play the same games, guys. So just roll with it. Let MSNBC go nuts with it, whatever. So, and we'll see if MSNBC even still exists. Comcast has them up for sale right now, so they may not be around much longer.
Yeah. Don has a great point. He says the Germans actually took out ads telling people not to ride on the Lusitania because they knew it was hauling weapons. Our government insisted it wasn't, and that the passage was safe. Well, there we go. And I saw that Putin, and I'm not a Putin apologist. I mean, he's whatever, he's our adversary. Let's be clear. However, he's saying, I'm warning him because I told the United States 30 minutes before I launched those ICBMs, those hypersonic missiles were on their way.
Yeah.
And so how long before he's like, hey, I'm going to smack Poland. I'm going to hit your site. You better get your fucking people out of there. Pardon my French.
Yeah. Well, and let's face it, he is our adversary. I also am not a Putin fan, but that doesn't mean he's always wrong either.
No, he's not.
You know what I'm saying? We do have to take a moment, a step back, just like the left always wants us to do in these other things, and consider the other person's point of view, right? So
both things can be true at the same time.
True.
And Putin can be our adversary and can also be telling the truth.
True. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting times here. It's between now and when Trump takes over, it's going to be very interesting to see what Biden and the Democrats do to try and set up these landmines for the Trump administration. It's also going to be interesting to see what happens for the first 90 days, 100 days, right? How they counter that, how they, is this handled through direct communication to the populace through podcasts, things like that?
I'm not worried about the Dems. They're going to do what they're going to do. I'm worried about the Republicans, and I think that losing Matt Gaetz already it automatically puts us 0-1. We're losing already.
Mhm.
And I don't believe in backpedaling. That's something true about Trump. He's an offensive guy. I'm an offensive guy. I would have doubled down, tripled down, and pushed Gates through. The only reason I wouldn't is if there was hard factual evidence that, yeah, Mr. President, I kind of did screw that 17-year-old girl. All right, bro, you're out of here.
Yeah.
But without that, I'm a foot on the gas because I don't want to, these, and I hate to use the term rhinos
Mhm.
that are going to stymie and slow down and stop what needs to be greenlit and pushed all the way worries me more than any liberal agenda. That's my
So really what we're talking about is the machine, the swamp, right?
Mhm.
Because that's what we're
100%.
talking about, the establishment, right? So here's what I would have liked to have seen with Gates.
Mhm.
If Trump was told or Gates told Trump that, yeah, the allegations are true,
Mhm.
then instead of Gates being allowed to step down, I would rather see Trump come out and go, I'm pulling it because I found out these allegations are true.
Mhm.
Because then he gains credibility, right?
But Gates wants to, survive as a politician. He's an animal, so he
Yeah,
wants to keep moving on that, and I think that's why he resigned from Congress. It avoids the ethics
sure.
because all that stops, and then he maybe runs for governor. But he can't escape this if it's
No,
true,
no, he
and I
can't,
hope it isn't
and he
true.
shouldn't, right? I
No, he
hope it isn't
shouldn't.
true, but if it's true, he shouldn't escape it.
Hell no.
But by the same token, I think if Trump's going to be a step on the gas, hardcore guy, he also and drain the swamp, take on the machine, whatever terms you want to put on there. He also needs to call it out on the Republican side, not just let people resign,
Yeah.
right?
What do
Because
these
that
comments?
gets credibility on both sides. So
100%. What does Don say?
says the rhinos are helping Biden lay the mines. Look at the judicial appointments that just got through because the Republicans didn't show up for work and vote against them.
See
Yep,
what I'm talking about?
yep. It's the establishment, the machine, swamp, whatever you want to call it. So
The 20 Republicans that said they'd vote no, if I asked Trump, I'd be like, Roger that, buddy. I got you. I got
yep,
some money left over in my chest. I'm going to try to get your ass out
yep.
when the
We're gonna
midterms come.
primary you. Yep, you're gonna get primaried.
Yeah.
So
What's Schiff say?
they're called rats. Republicans against Trump.
Yeah.
Yep. So um, yeah, Gates could return to Congress if he won re-election. Yep.
There we go. I'm done. DeSantis
DeSantis
could
could,
appoint it. Yep.
yep, could appoint Gates to Rubio's seat in the Senate. Yep, that could happen too. So, who knows? I mean, if the allegations are true or not true, that changes everything both ways, and we'll probably never know because the Democrats were threatening to go public with the findings of the investigation,
Mhm.
and the Republicans immediately said, "Well, if you do that, we're going to release a bunch of the investigations against Democrats." That's just the machine. That's the swamp, right?
Yeah.
How about we just all get on the side of if people are doing wrong things, they should be punished for it.
I know, man, but this is how this shit works, and you know it. I mean,
Mhm.
if you've lived your life like a saint, they're gonna make shit up. You
True.
know, where were you on that trip in 2019 in New Orleans? Like, in New Orleans. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
I mean, and that's the way the game's played.
It is.
I know you got a heart out, brother.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for tonight?
No, I think this was a good discussion. Keep an eye on the manufacturing guys. We'll talk about it on the show going forward. I think the important thing there is it's generally speaking a leading indicator. So we have to watch and see if that follows through into services and also housing. We know there's pockets of weak housing around the country, and we need to wait and see what happens a little more nationally to start skewing some numbers around. It'll be interesting to watch.
And with that, why don't you take us out?
Guys, the fight's coming. Be ready.